the stray in the alley. The neon lights of new Helios City flickered as rain poured from the polluted sky. Streets bustled with noise, activity, and the indifferent flow of humanity. In the labyrinth of alleys behind District 7, no one paid attention to the small figure huddled behind a dumpster, knees pulled to her chest. Her name was Xyla, thin and ragged, with pale lavender skin and glowing blue eyes. Xyla didn't belong here, anywhere really. Her species, the Sylari, were refugees scattered across the galaxy, treated like pests on most human colonies. Her once elegant clothing was torn, and her delicate fingers scraped at discarded food on the wet ground. She didn't want to eat trash, but hunger was an unforgiving master. Her stomach growled as she tore into half-rotten bread, her pride dissolving with every bite. "That bad, huh?" The voice startled her. Xyla's head snapped up, her glowing eyes locking onto a man standing at the alley entrance. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair and an unshaven face. His jacket was worn, a name patch barely visible, R. Carter. Xyla froze like a hunted animal, her heart pounding. "Relax," the man said, raising his hands in peace. "I'm not here to hurt you." She didn't move, clutching the piece of bread tightly. "You look like you could use a real meal," he said softly. "Come with me. There's a diner just down the street. Hot food, clean table. My treat." Xyla blinked, unsure if she'd misheard him. "You invite me?" Carter tilted his head, a small, kind smile forming. "Yeah. Ever heard of manners?" Xyla had. On her world, an invitation to dine was sacred, a gesture of trust and kinship. But here, in this cruel, chaotic place, such kindness felt impossible. "What's the catch?" she whispered suspiciously. "No catch," Carter replied, turning and walking away. He glanced back once. "You coming or not?" Xyla hesitated, staring at the moldy bread in her hand. Then, slowly, she stood and followed the man into the rain. The first meal. The Nova Grill was small and unassuming, its flickering sign casting warm light onto the wet sidewalk. Inside, the air smelled of sizzling meat, coffee, and something Xyla couldn't identify, but her mouth watered. Carter slid into a booth and gestured for her to sit across from him. Nervously, Xyla perched on the edge of the seat, her wide eyes scanning the room. "You look like you're ready to bolt," Carter said, amused. "I do not belong," she replied softly, her voice melodic but strained. "Sylari are not welcomed." "Not by everyone," Carter said, leaning back. "But you're with me. Nobody'll say a thing." A cheerful waitress appeared, tablet in hand. "What can I get you, Carter?" He glanced at Xyla. "Order whatever you want. Go wild." Xyla's glowing eyes widened. "Anything, anything." She hesitated, then pointed shyly at a picture of spiced protein stew and a glass of nectar water. The waitress nodded. "Good choice. And you, Carter?" "Burger and fries. Extra ketchup." As the waitress left, Xyla frowned. "Why are you doing this?" Carter shrugged. "Because you're hungry. And I can help." "Humans do not help Sylari." "Humans are complicated," Carter replied with a grin. "Some of us are better at it than others. More than a meal." When the food arrived, Xyla stared at the steaming bowl in front of her. The stew was fragrant and rich, filled with tender chunks of protein and vegetables. She lifted the spoon with shaking hands, bringing the first bite to her lips. Her eyes widened, and a small sound escaped her throat, half sob, half laugh. "It is delicious." Carter watched her with quiet satisfaction. "Yeah, Nova Grill's the best spot in this sector." Xyla ate carefully at first, savoring each bite as though it were precious. Gradually, her guard lowered, and she ate with growing confidence. Between bites, she spoke softly. "On my world, dining with another was sacred. To share food meant to share trust, To see one as kin. Sounds nice, Carter replied, popping a fry into his mouth. She looked at him, her glowing eyes searching his face. Why do you trust me? Carter leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. Look, I don't know you, Xyla, but I do know this. Nobody deserves to eat off the ground. Not while I can do something about it. Xyla set her spoon down, emotion flickering in her eyes. Thank you. You don't need to thank me, Carter said, brushing it off. You just needed someone to give you a chance. The unexpected reward. Outside the diner, the rain had stopped, and the streets glistened under the neon glow. Carter walked Xyla back to the alley, though part of him hated to leave her there. This isn't much of a home, he muttered. Xyla turned to face him, clutching her hands together. You gave me food, dignity. Among the Sylari, such a gift demands a gift in return. Carter shook his head. You don't owe me anything, kid. No. You misunderstand, she said softly, stepping closer. I am not simply Sylari. I am Xyla'thara, daughter of the Sylari High Council. A princess, as you might say. Carter blinked. You're a princess? I fled my people after our world fell to war. But I will not forget this. Xyla reached into her tattered cloak, pulling out a small, glowing crystal, shimmering with soft blue light. What is that? Carter asked. A royal sigil, Xyla explained. With this, any Sylari fleet, any house will grant you aid. Should you ever find yourself lost among the stars, present this, and you will not be alone. Carter hesitated before taking the crystal. You're serious? She smiled, stepping back. You were kind when you had no reason to be. In return, you have a friend among the stars, a seat at the table. Days turned into weeks, and Xyla disappeared from the alley. Carter assumed she'd moved on to a better place. He hoped so, at least. Life went back to normal, or so he thought. Months later, a massive Sylari starship hovered over New Helios City, its sleek, silver hull blotting out the sky. Panic rippled through the streets as people pointed and gasped. But then, a single message broadcast across every screen and speaker. To the human R. Carter of New Helios. Our princess has not forgotten. The Sylari honor their friends. You are invited to join us at the royal table. Carter stood on his porch, staring at the sky, the glowing crystal warm in his hand. Well, he muttered with a grin, guess I'm having dinner in space.